Hey guys, I was to the Salvation Army thrift store the other day and I left with something that I did not expect. This is an RCA model Vpt292 Vhs Vcr and it was made around 1988. I don't know exactly when this particular machine was made, but I did find an advertisement dated 1988, so that's what I'm going to guess that this is around. I was to the store and I saw this elderly man looking at something that looked like a piece of audio or video equipment, and I was hoping he didn't grab it because I wanted to take a look at it, and he didn't. He lost interest and walked away. So I walked up and it was this, and it had a $6 price tag on it, so I decided to bite the bullet and get it. While I was there, I also saw a JVC dual deck cassette deck for $14, and a pretty decent deck too. It had Dolby B and C noise reduction, but they wanted $14 for it, and I figured it probably had bad belts at the very least, and of course I already have what is considered one of the best consumer grade cassette decks ever made. So I decided to pass on that. Believe it or not, I do say no sometimes when I'm faced with situations like that. But yeah, I decided to grab this VCR. The reason I did so is because I actually do have a VCR already, and I knew that this one, in terms of features, was better equipped than my current VCR, and I figured it may be better quality too, so I decided I would grab it. And if it indeed was as good or better quality than my old VCR, I would replace it. Now, I don't use a VCR for anything anymore, neither does Mom. The last time we used a VCR was in 2006 or 7, before we got our DVD recorder. Mom went through VCRs like a mother for the past, few years that we used one, because she always recorded shows every night. And we went through 4 or 5 VCRs in the last 5 years we used one, and then we got our first DVD recorder. And in the, how many years now? In the 7 or 8 years now that we've been using a DVD recorder, we're only on our second one, so that's pretty good. The reason I like to have a VCR is because of all these. These tapes on the bottom shelf there are all filled with old commercials that were recorded between 1998 and 2005 that Mom recorded. And this BASF tape right here, which is the oldest tape, that has a couple of things from 1992 on it. And these are all going to be digitized, and all the commercials and news clips and everything, they're going to be uploaded on CPQ 5360. If you don't know, that's my spare channel. That's basically where I upload stuff that wasn't produced by myself, and my current project there is to upload all the commercials from these tapes, if I ever get the time. And in addition, I have all these tapes here that were recorded with stuff I filmed with my old camcorder between 2005 and about 2008. And someday I hope to digitize, probably not all of them, because between 2005 and 8 I recorded literally everything. Every road trip I went on with Dad and stuff. And of course, because Dad's in most of these tapes, I haven't really touched them in the past 5 or 6 years, and it's kind of hard to think about going through and to digitize them. I might just throw them all in a pit and light it on fire, I don't know. But yeah, I have all these tapes there, and there's more up there. So I do want to keep a VCR around, and even, let's say, even if I complete the projects of digitizing all these tapes, I want to keep a VCR and at least a couple tapes around anyway, just for fun. So yeah, I bought this thing to possibly replace my old VCR, which I have it right here. Laptop wasn't included with it, but this is a Citizen VCR. This is the first, and until now the only VCR I ever owned. I got it brand new for Christmas in 2001. Retail price was $100. And from what I can tell, this, even though it's got a brand name on it, this is just a generic Chinese VCR, possibly made by a company known as Funai. But it's served me well for the past 13 years. This thing, like I said, it took everything I recorded on my camcorder and put it on all those VHS tapes on the 2 top shelves there. So yeah, this thing's done pretty good. This is a 2-head VCR, 2-head mono, and it still works absolutely perfect, works great, but this thing might perhaps do better. Now this is also a 2-head mono VCR. Anyway, let's take a look at it. Now I didn't get the remote with it, unfortunately, because you need the remote to set the clock, and you need it to program stuff for timer recording. Not that I need any of either of those features, but luckily this thing does let you do everything else right on the unit itself. This VCR, my old one, I also lost a remote for it, lost it years ago, and it really sucks because I can't do a gosh darn thing with it besides play and record a tape. I can't change the tape speed, I can't go into the menu or anything. So at least this thing I have a bit more functionality without the remote. Now I'm curious because I know some of my viewers are young enough that some of you may have never actually encountered VHS equipment, and if you are one of those people, I'd be interested to hear from you down in the comments. So let's take a look at this thing. You got the tape compartment in there. You got all your tape controls here. You got a vacuum fluorescent display, which has an orange filter over it. So the indicators are all orange and red, which is kind of cool. It's not very bright. I don't know if that's because of the filter or just because it's worn out. Probably, you know, it's been lit up for years and years and years. You have buttons to adjust the tape speed. This VCR has a built-in tape counter on the display, so you can turn that on and off. You can reset the tape counter, and then a button here to switch between the built-in cable tuner, which this VCR has, which is very nice, or the line input. And you have buttons to change the channel on the tuner. It's also compatible with standard over-the-air. You have the record button, and then this button labeled VCR, which I don't know what it does at all. Perhaps when the VCR is turned on, it switches between being input from the VCR, and perhaps when it's turned off, it just passes through the cable input. That might be it. And then this, I have no clue what this is. XPR length. I guess XPR, start and length. I have no idea what that is. Maybe that's something to do with the timer recording, I don't know. And something which is pretty cool is this door, which pulls out. And you have the switch there to switch between if you're hooked up to an over-the-air or a cable television system, analog only of course. You have buttons for programming the cable tuner, so it goes through all the channels, so it'll only switch between those that actually have the signal coming through them. And something that rather surprised me is this has manual tracking. This is the first VCR I'll have ever used with manual tracking, and for those of you who again have never dealt with this stuff, basically tracking, and it's a thing for all, to my knowledge, all videotape recording systems, is basically sort of, you can think of it like an alignment between the tape on the tape head. And most VCRs made after the 1980s, like my old one, they have automatic tracking, so you don't have to think about it. But for these ones with manual tracking, what you'd have to do is you'd play the tape, and if you had noise on the picture, you'd have to adjust the tracking until the picture was clear. This was only important if you were playing tapes that were not recorded on that same VCR. If I recorded something on this VCR and played it back on this VCR, I wouldn't have to adjust the tracking at all, as long as it didn't change between when I recorded it and when I played it. So yeah, that's everything on the front. If we go on the back, you have composite input and output. I guess that's kind of like a V-hold, which I've also never seen that on a VCR before. And in addition to coaxial antenna and TV inputs and outputs, and a channel switch, channel 3 or 4, you also have the screw terminals for antenna input and TV output, which that's pretty nice. And you got the usual warnings, FCC ID. Actually, I should look that up because that might tell me when perhaps this model was introduced. RCA Corporation, made in Japan, which is kind of cool. And something else that's cool is that this VCR was apparently actually manufactured by Hitachi. Apparently, up to 1983, RCA's VHS VCRs were made by Panasonic. Then in 1983, they switched to Hitachi. Now, you notice this says RCA Corporation as opposed to Thomson Consumer Electronics. 1988 was actually the year that RCA became a part of Thomson Consumer Electronics. So this VCR might or might not have been manufactured as part of Thomson, but it does say RCA Corporation as opposed to Thomson Consumer Electronics. Again, down there it says made in Japan. This was apparently a Canadian market VCR because it's got this sticker here which says printed in Canada. And yeah, that's about it. Now, as you've been able to see, I have it plugged in here, so let's turn it on. No tape in it. And it's got all these LED lights above the tape transport buttons, which are very nice. And here on the display, it shows that we're on the line input. If I press the tuner line button, that goes out, and now it's showing the channel that the tuner is tuned to. I can't change the channel because it hasn't been programmed, and if I try to program it, it won't come up with anything anyway. But there's that. Now when I bought this thing, it was not fully functional, and I'll show you why. I do have it working now, although it isn't fixed, it is working now. But what would happen was, you'd put in a tape, and the tape would go in just fine, and it would rewind and fast forward just fine. But if you tried to play or record, you could hear it kind of struggling for a few seconds, and then it would just stop. So I figured, and I was correct in figuring, that this thing probably had at least one bad belt. So what I'll do now is I'll open this up for you and we'll take a look inside. So I have it unplugged now, 2 screws there and there let you lift off the top cover. And I was kind of disheartened when I first looked in this thing, because the first thing I saw when I opened this up, there's one of the circuit boards, and this capacitor exploded its guts all over the circuit board. And I've never seen a ceramic disc capacitor do that before. But yeah, that looks kind of bad. And like I said, this thing seems to work just fine, but man, that can't be good. That capacitor is probably not performing to its specification anymore, and I don't know. I guess none of the juice is shorting out anything, because this VCR seems to work just fine. But yeah, that's not very nice nonetheless. But if we look at everything else in here, everything looks pretty good. It's your standard VCR. 2 head drum, head there. Drum looks good. No pits or scratches or anything that would suggest really heavy use. Looks very nice. And everything else in here looks good. Now, in terms of belts, this thing uses no less than 6 belts, which is certainly a sign of bygone times. If I were to open this VCR up, you would probably see no more than 1 or 2 belts. This thing uses 6 of them. And you can see this belt right here. It feels fine. Well, this belt wasn't the problem. And everything here is looking just fine. And that pinch roller, I guess, looks okay. You can see it's kind of shiny, but it feels, it doesn't feel entirely, glossy smooth. So I guess that's probably okay. And another thing I noticed when I was in here is, you see this gray colored post right here? There's a bunch of chunky gray stuff, kind of looks like concrete or something, built up on it. I've wiped some of it off. I don't know what it is. But, yeah, you can see it right there. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's particles from just, that shed off of tapes. Actually, if I remember right, when I looked at this thing working once, this part doesn't even come into contact with the tape. So I don't know what it is, but it wipes right off it. It doesn't spin. It's not a spinning part, I guess. And I don't know, it's just kind of like a gray dust. Not sure what it is. Yeah, so that's inside there. And you got more electronics here. Look at all the wires going everywhere. Certainly a sign of bygone times. A VCR from the 21st century like that one, there'll just be one circuit board inside it with a few components, and nothing will be wired. It'll all be, you know, one or two big ribbon cables, and that'll be it. Another motor there, that would be the capstan motor probably. And a nice big power transformer there. I assume this thing has a linear power supply. This VCR has what I assume is a switching power supply, because it's just got a tiny little transformer with a bunch of components on it. Now, what I'll show you is, under there, is a plate that you can remove to get access to the rest of the transport mechanism, and that's where I found the problem belt. 5 screws and that plate on the bottom comes off, and lots of fun stuff here. You got more electronics, got some integrated circuits there, one right there, and here's the business end of the transport mechanism. You got the head drum there, and this place here, which has no less than 4 belts on it. This is the main capstan motor right here. You got the flywheel that connects to the take-up tape reel, and you got this big wide belt connecting there, and then this belt that connects there, and then another belt there that connects these 2 wheels. All those belts are still intact. This one's quite loose, which I don't think it should be, so that probably could benefit from a replacement. The flat belt here, it's a bit loose but not as bad, and yeah, but the problem belt was what connects this motor to this wheel, and as you can see I've replaced it with a rubber band which got it working. But what this motor does is it engages the tape with the head drum. This motor drives the mechanism which pulls the tape out of the cassette and wraps it around the head drum. And what was happening was that belt was loose enough that it got slippery, and so when you pressed play and it tried to pull the tape around the head drum, this motor would keep on spinning, but nothing would keep moving, and eventually it would just give up and go back into the stopped mode. So I replaced that, and that got this working. This belt here seems to be okay. I haven't noticed any slipping coming from that. Yeah, that's about it. And look at all that wiring, man. Wouldn't it be heck if you had to try and diagnose something wrong there? Now, something funny, the first time I ever took that plate off, this fell out of it. I have no idea where this came from or where it's supposed to go. I don't know if it's supposed to set down in there like that or what. I have no freaking clue. So I've just kind of left it out, and it hasn't hurt anything. But yeah, that just kind of fell out the first time I took the plate off, and I have no idea where it goes. Alright, so I've got it plugged in here, and I'll show you it loading a tape view from the inside. So we put the tape in, and that's it. Little indicator here showing that a tape is in. Now when I press play, you'll see it wrap the tape around the head drum and begin playing. There it is. I could hear the motor. It was kind of struggling to finish the motion of wrapping it around the head. I heard it slipping for quite a long while there, but it didn't give up. Eventually it got it. So there's the tape playing, and we can do a search, fast forward and rewind. There's a fast forward. And there it is. I heard that motor struggling again. See, it has to do other stuff when you're rewinding. So there it is. And for those of you who have never encountered videotape stuff, that's what it looks like. The tape is wrapped around starting here, and it ends up right about there. Now when I stop, you'll see it retract the tape from the head. And the head spins down. So, I'll show the tape counter working. So let's press play again. And if I press counter, there you see it counts. And interestingly, it stays in the same place even if you eject the tape and put another one in. So that's kind of interesting. But it also shows the speed it's playing. This VCR is capable of 3 speeds, SP, LP, and EP, which for a standard 6-hour tape is 2, 4, and 6-hour recording mode. And for anyone who doesn't know, whenever you choose a longer recording time, of course the recording quality goes down. Now this is playing here, and I'm just looking at the tape, and I'm kind of noticing it's kind of jerking a little bit. It slows down for a brief moment and then it speeds back up. Maybe you can see it better over here. It's just ever so slightly jerking, so that's probably a problem with the other belts. So what I'm thinking of doing is buying a belt kit for this. I will say that I've done quite a few comparisons between this VCR and this one, and the quality is about the same. So I think this one will be a keeper. The audio is definitely exactly the same. The video between them is different. Oh, that was weird. Quite a squeaking noise came from it. Probably from the head drum. The video does look slightly different between them. I noticed this unit gives the video kind of a more slightly greenish hue, whereas that one has more red content to it. The color difference isn't enough that this machine looks wrong, it just looks slightly different from that one. You can tell it's slightly different color tone when you compare side by side. But otherwise, you know, in terms of the overall quality, they seem to be about the same. So I'll stop here. And I'll demonstrate fast forward and rewind. Here's fast forward. And I'll demonstrate rewind. And now finally ejecting the tape. There you go. I also forgot to mention that this VCR is an HQ VCR. It does meet the VHS HQ standard. And the HQ system was developed by JVC, who also developed VHS itself, but a few years after they developed VHS HQ. And HQ was originally meant to specify a set of electronic enhancements made to VHS VCRs that would increase the apparent video resolution. However, it didn't go through because many of the major VHS VCR manufacturers expressed concern that it would cost too much to manufacture an HQ-compliant VCR. So in the end, JVC just changed the standard for HQ to mean one particular improvement plus one other improvement. So this VCR apparently has that, so it meets the HQ. My other VCR also meets the HQ. Now, with that being said, this is only a 2-head VCR. If you ever come across a 4-head VCR, they are much higher quality than 2-head VCRs, and 4 heads are not hard to come by. Alright, now I'll demonstrate this working from this end. Put the tape in. So when I hit play, you'll see this motor go and pull the tape around the head. And you can see yeah, you saw it move really slow there at the end, getting the tape around it. So yeah, this needs to be replaced with a proper belt, and it should be fine. Everything's working here, as you can see. Now if I do fast forward here, and if I do rewind, you might remember when you do rewind, this motor, which isn't active right now, it only moves, it only serves to move the tape against the head or remove it from the head. But when I do rewind, it has to activate again, and you can see it kind of struggle. See that? That shouldn't be happening. There it goes. That's not good. So it definitely needs some help there, and you can feel this motor moving plenty fast, but the rest of the mechanism doesn't move. So it's this belt. This needs a new belt. What I'm considering doing is I found out that the company Studio Sound Electronics, who you might remember I bought the new belts for my Iowa tape deck from, they actually have a belt kit for this very VCR. It costs $12 or $13 and you get all 6 belts. Or, for $20 you get all 6 belts and the rubber pinch roller. I'm thinking I'll buy a belt kit for this thing, just because this VCR seems to work just fine. I am kind of worried about that exploded capacitor, but it doesn't seem to be hurting anything. So I'm thinking I'll buy the belt kit. I'm not sure if I'll spend the extra $7 to get the pinch roller. But yeah, I think I'll get the belt kit and should get this VCR running really good. These 2 belts I've already had off and on, so they're easy to replace. The main drive belt here, that should be easy to replace, as should this belt here. And the belt that goes around these 2 wheels, by the looks of it, I'm not sure. That might be a little finicky. Because I know like on this side I can just pull it up over, but I'm not sure if I can get it up over this side. Oh well, we'll see anyway. Hopefully it won't be too hard. Everything's spaced and very open here, so shouldn't be any problem to replace all 6 belts. Everything should be good. So I'll put this back together, and what I'll do is I'll hook this camcorder up to the video input and we will record onto a VHS so you can see what the quality is like. Alright, this is being recorded with the Rca model Vpt292 Vhs Vcr from around 1988. I've got the camcorder hooked up to the composite video input of the VCR, and how I'll get this from the VCR to the computer will be connecting the camcorder to the composite output of the VCR and recording it back onto the digital 8, and then of course just transferring it to the computer. So as you can see, quality is pretty decent as far as a VCR goes, especially a 2-head VCR. And you know, the audio quality is definitely exactly the same as that VCR. The video, it's hard to gauge the video quality because it does look slightly different, but I'm not sure if that different means better or worse. I guess if it's that hard to judge, then it can probably be considered the same. So yeah, I think this VCR will be a keeper and replace my other VCR, which I'll probably either just give to a thrift store or put it up on eBay perhaps. But for the time being, for digitizing all these tapes, I may continue to use this VCR. I'll have to try some of those tapes with both VCRs and see how the quality compares. Because for all the ones I've uploaded so far on CPQ5360, I've used that VCR and it of course has done just fine. But we'll see anyway. One thing I noticed the first time I did a test with the camcorder on both of these VCRs was I noticed that on this VCR the audio sometimes gave just a very tiny, ever so subtle skip in the audio, which this VCR didn't, but this one did it once in a great while, so I don't know what's up there. But I'm pretty confident that if this VCR has any actual affliction with the recording or playback of video, that it can probably be fixed with some new belts, because everything else looks really good. But anyway, we've been currently recording in the SP standard play mode, and my camcorder has decided just to not focus anymore. So anyway, let's switch to the LP mode. Alright, this is recording with the LP mode, so tape moves slightly slower for better recording time, quality goes slightly down, but here's what everything looks like. Now I'll switch to EP. I guess it's SLP. So now we're recording in SLP, the 6-hour mode, longest recording time, lowest quality. Something I think about now is that Mom always, like after we got our first DVD recorder, Mom swore never to use VHS ever again, and to this day she disses it a lot, and she doesn't know why I keep one VCR, let alone get a second one. But the thing is, she always recorded in SLP. Everything she ever did, she always recorded in SLP. She didn't, she never knew there was a decrease in quality, she just knew there was an increase in tape time. So I think she got used to how SLP looks and sounds, and she kind of judges VHS based on that today. But I think in SP mode, VHS is still a very competent format. If you need to record TV shows overnight or anything like that, it's still a very useful system. I find that even though recordable DVDs are indeed much higher in quality, I find they're not as reliable. I find DVDs, can only be recorded over perhaps 10 or 15 times before they go bad and you gotta buy a new one. And of course DVDs aren't nearly as cheap as VHS tapes still are, and you can still buy them new. Although I wouldn't buy new ones anymore, I'd just buy new old stock ones if I ever had to, but I've got such a large stock here, I'll probably never buy another VHS tape. I'll just keep a few from here, and that'll work just fine. So just for comparing quality, I'll switch back to SP. And now we're back in SP mode, and you could probably sense the difference in quality. And what I recommend, if you want to look at more VHS stuff, I highly recommend you look at YouTube user BBishopPCM, YouTube user BBishopPCM, who still faithfully uses VHS to record TV shows and stuff. And he has videos of different VCRs he acquires, and of him repairing them and stuff. Oftentimes the VCRs he gets also suffer from bad belts, if not other problems, and he usually repairs them on video, and it's pretty cool to watch if you enjoy this kind of stuff at all. So I think I'll just about wrap it up here. I wish I knew what this XPR is, but anyway, I think I'll conclude the test of this VCR here. So what I'll show you next is these are some TV commercials that I recorded just straight from the satellite receiver with this VCR. Actually, I recorded them onto this camcorder and then transferred it to the VCR. It would look exactly the same, but here's what that looks like.
Listening is the secret to a good interview. Listening is the secret to a good relationship. Listening is the secret to a lot of things.
Cold, cough, and flu symptoms? Forget them. Get Benylin Extra Strength, the strength you want.
Well, that's just about all there is to show of the RCA model Vpt292 Vhs Vcr from around 1988. I'm hoping, I'm seriously considering getting a belt kit, and I'm hoping that gets this thing working perfectly. And also, so I can set the clock on this thing and use the timer record features. Not that I might ever have a use for that ever again. But then again, if once I have my own house and stuff, if I want to record TV shows and stuff overnight, I just might use a VCR rather than spend the money on a DVD recorder, especially considering this VCR has lasted, 25 years or so. Who's to say it won't last 25 years more? In comparison, our first DVD recorder, which was a $200 Sony, no less, only lasted a couple of years before it developed an electronic problem. The Magnavox unit we've been using for about 5 years now, that's still working great at least, and that unit only costs 50 or 60 bucks. But yeah, I might decide to use a VCR, perhaps even this VCR someday, if I want to record my own TV shows. So I'm hoping I can find the remote control, and with that being said, if anyone owns this VCR, or a similar model, perhaps a VPT291 or 293 or whatever, and you have the remote, I'd love to see a picture of it, if you can do that for me, just so I know what to look for on eBay, because I've been looking on eBay, and I found remotes that might be the right one, but I'm not sure, and I don't want to spend 10 bucks on a remote control without knowing that it's the right one. So that's about it for this thing. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time.